Hey guys, it's your girl Yem, and I'm coming to you live from the spot. Welcome to YEM'S World. Thank you so much for watching. Now, we are continuing our series on identity. Last week, we treated the question, do you know that God knows you? Now, we're going to look at, do you know what God says about you? Now, there are way more than this out there. Trust and believe me. But I'm just going to look at a few key scriptures that tell us what God says about us. And our first scripture is taken from Jeremiah 1, verse 5. It's a very popular scripture. You probably know it by heart. I'll read it for you. It says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Now, here is the thing. God says you're appointed. God calls you a prophet to the nations. Before we were even before we were a thought, before our parents got married, or whatever the circumstances around our birth, before that, God already knew us. He already knew us. And he says, I set you apart. That's what he says about it. I set you apart before you were born. So I don't know if you're listening to me right now, today, and you're questioning your identity. I want to let you know that God has set you apart. That is your identity. You're set apart. You are set apart. You're a prophet to the nations. Now, of course, we're not going to get into it. I know there's different dispensations of the gifts that God gives, the gifts of the Spirit. Some people are prophets, pastors, etc., etc. But, and this was obviously specific to Jeremiah, right? But God, as he knew Jeremiah, as he set him apart and appointed him, so also does he know us, set us apart, and appoint us to be X, Y, and Z. So if you want to know your identity, go to God. That is the crux of this whole series. Isaiah 43 verse 1 says, but now, O Jacob, listen to the Lord who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you says this. Hope you're listening. Do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. There's so much in that. Don't be afraid. I've ransomed you, meaning I've purchased you. You are called by my name. You're mine. You belong to me. Your identity, if you want to talk about identity, we are purchased by God. We are called by his name. We belong to him. That is who we are. That is our identity. That's what God says. That is what God says about you. That is what he says about me. I am called by his name, as in Yemi, last name, Jehovah, right? That is who I am. I'm called by his name. I belong to him. That is who you are. Last scripture for today. Oh, actually, two more. 1 Peter 2:9 says, but you are not like that, for you are a chosen generation. You are royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. That is who you are. You're a chosen generation. You're royal priests. This is what he says. Listen, we're talking about identity. This is what God calls us. It doesn't matter what your mom called you. It doesn't matter what your dad called you. It doesn't matter what your teacher called you. It doesn't matter what your boss called you. What does God say? He says you're a chosen generation. He says you're a royal priest. He said you're a holy nation. He says you are set apart. That's what God says. That's your identity. That's my identity. That is who we are. He says he called me out of darkness into his marvelous light. So I'm a child of light. And that brings us to our last verse, which is Matthew 5, verse 14. It says, you are the light of the world. Look, I've talked about that extensively in my previous video. But you are light. I am light. We are light. Period. Okay, that is who we are. That is who God says. He says you're the light. He says you're the salt of the earth. That's who we are.
The garbage truck is outside collecting garbage, so if you can hear that, apologies. Sorry for that.
But this is who we are. This is what God says. Now, these are just a few of many, 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 many scriptures. And so I have an assignment for you. Go and find some scriptures and read what God says about you. And then drop those in the comments. Until we see you next time, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment in the comment section, and share the video. All right, guys. Bye.